Hi, my name is Dave Frank. Welcome to my 30-second internet masterclass. I'm coming to you tonight live from Hari, NYC, which is a swingin' jazz yoga studio in the heart of Manhattan. Tonight, I'm extremely grateful to offer you the fourth and final part of our four-part Beginning Jazz Improvisation Series. Tonight's class is called Passing Fancies, Using Chromatics. This is a technical class for serious muzos that is intended to be used after completing parts 1 through 3. Part 1 focused on an intro to chord mapping and chord scale theory. Part 2 explored ways to improvise on the basic chord progressions used in jazz, up to improvising on a complete tune. Part 3 explained various ways to use arpeggios and extensions in your lines. And Part 4 will outline 3 basic ways to add chromatic passing tones to your lines to make them sound hipper and cooler. Taken together, this 4-part series can offer to aspiring improvisers a complete basic curriculum to develop the ability to improvise great lines on jazz standards. Tonight's class will be the most technical of all 4 parts of Beginning Jazz Improvisation. But I think if you take it slow and go step by step, you can get a lot out of it. We can define chromatic tones as non-diatonic tones placed in your lines, generally a half step away from a chord tone. The most common formula to use when you start adding chromatics to your lines is to place the chromatic tone on the upbeat of the measure and the chord tone on the downbeat of the measure. Much more about this later. The first 3 basic ways to use chromatics in your lines are from below, from above, and the button hook. Chromatic tones are the chocolate chips in the cookies of improvisation. Using chromatics will spice up the sound of your line and add a bit of necessary tension and hipness to your sound. Chromatic tones are cool, babies. Let's explore some concepts and exercises that will allow you to add chromatic tones freely into your improvisations. I'm happy to pass on to you the beginning exercise of a thorough study of chromatics given by my late teacher, the great Charlie Banacos. These exercises focus on the chromatic tones that lead either in an ascending or descending way to the basic 1, 3, 5, 7 of the chord that you're playing over. These exercises will show you how and where to place the chromatic tones in your lines and will give your inner ear the sound of using chromatics in your improvised lines. Let's go to the piano and we'll check out this first exercise. The first thing to notice is where the basic chord tones are on any chord. The basic chord tones will generally be some form of the 1, 3, 5, or 7 of the chord, except when we're using a major or a minor 6 or a diminished chord. This is the way Charlie's exercise started. We're going to work just on the C major 7 chord for the moment. We'll put a C major 7 chord third inversion in the left hand, B, C, E, G. In the right hand, we're going to target the root of the chord, the C, a half step below. So we're going to play B, C, and now we're going to just do a basic C major 7 arpeggio. We're going to do it again 1 octave higher, and then we're going to descend just using the basic notes of the chord. It's a 2-octave exercise. Let's try this again. We're targeting the C, or the root of the major 7. We'll play the chord in the left hand. We'll start on a B, a half step below the root. We're going to repeat that movement again after a pause. We're going to pause at the top, and then we're going to descend just using the notes of the chord. That is approaching the root from a half step below. Now, we're going to do the same thing from the third of the chord. So we have a C major 7. The third is an E. So we're going to target that E with an E flat. So in the left hand, we can play a C major 7 chord as a block, C, E, G, B. In the right hand, we're going to approach the third from a half step below, like this. C, E flat, E, G, B. You can hear a slight dissonance. We're going to do the same thing again an octave higher. And then when we descend, we're going to descend just on the basic notes of the chord. Next, we're going to try it on the fifth. So we play the major seventh. We're going to target the fifth, which is a G, a half step below, F sharp. Has a dissonant sound, but this is just to get your ear to hear these increments of sounds and chromatics. So we're going to play a C major 7 arpeggio in the right hand using the approach to the 5. C, E, F sharp, G, B. We're going to repeat that movement up an octave. Sounds like something from the Addams Family. And then we're going to descend. Just the basic notes of the chord. Let's do that again. This is approaching the fifth of a major 7 from a half step below. Descend along the basic chord. Now we have one more. We're going to approach the seventh, which is the B, a half step below, which is going to be a B flat. We'll play our chord in the left hand. Now we're going to play C, E, G, B flat, B. Interesting sound. Repeat that. And now we're going to descend with a basic C major 7. What we've just done is we've approached all the chord tones of a C major 7 from a half step below. This is primarily an exercise in hearing the normal placement of the chromatic tones. Now we're going to repeat the same exercise. This time we're going to use a half step approach from above to each of the chord tones on a C major 7. We'll play the chord in the left hand. We're going to approach this C from a half step above. Here's the sound. Excellent. We're going to do the same thing an octave higher. And we're going to go down with a basic C major 7 chord. Now we're going to do the same thing to the third. We'll start on C, approach the third from a fourth, which is an F. Descend along the basic chord. Now we're going to do the G. Get that chromatic tone. La, la, la. Very creepy. And then we have one more variation where we're going to approach the 7 from a half step above. And then we're going to descend the basic chord. All right, that's approaching half step above to all the chord tones. Okay, we're going to try the same exercise now with the famous button hook chromatic approach. Here we're going to start with a C major 7. We're going to start a whole step above the root. We're going to go a half step below, and then we're going to hit the root. After that, we're just going to play a basic C major 7 arpeggio going up. So here's my chord in the left hand. I'm going to change inversions. And then we're going to go down. You can use your ear to decide exactly whether to start or go a half step or a whole step above or below. Just as long as you choose one variation, one variety, it'll be fine. Now we're going to do the third of the C major 7, the E. We'll go a half step above, half step below. Charlie Parker liked to use button hooks a lot. Now we'll do a button hook on the fifth. The fifth of a C major 7 is a G. Let's go half step above, half step below, and then hit our chord tone. Now we'll do one final one on the 7th. So we'll take the 7th, which is a B on a C major 7, start a half step above, C, go a half step below, B flat, and then B. Very strange sound, but again, these exercises are here to teach your inner ear the incremental sound of these chromatics and how they flow with the chord tones. We'll repeat the same thing, and then we'll go straight down. Beautiful. What we've just done is we've done this chromatic exercise from below, from above, and with the button hook on all the variations in C major 7. A good way to master Charlie's exercise is to play each possibility slowly without a metronome. Then play it and sing along with it. Then play just the left-hand chord and sing the right hand or the melody without playing it. Make sure to play each possibility consecutively in one key at a time, then move that group up chromatically. Do as much as you can manageably do on a given day. After you finish each of the 3 possibilities in every key, you can then do the exercise again using different chord qualities. You can try using the dominant 7th, minor 7, flat 5, diminished, and minor 6 qualities. If you go bonkers, do fewer keys per day. These exercises are amazing ways to get your inner ear to dig the sound of chromatics. Take it slowly and steadily. All of this is just the beginning of Charlie's amazing exercise. Doing these exercises are about as much fun as watching paint dry, but they work really well to incorporate the sound of chromatics into your inner ear. Adding chromatics in your improv line is like speaking a familiar language with an unfamiliar dialect. It's very helpful in the beginning to hear and imitate the familiar language spoken with the new dialect that you're trying to incorporate into it. 2 good ways I can recommend to you to begin to hear the chromatic dialect is to analyze and sing lines from either the Joy of Improv books or the Charlie Parker Omnibook. Let's take a line from Joy of Improv, Volume 1. I'm using this material because it will work well for our purposes and as a subtle way to advertise the book. We'll look at jazz tune number 22, which is a new melody or a contrafact written over the changes of There Will Never Be Another You, called Send In the Clones. First, we'll scan the tune and locate and label the chromatic approaches you can find in the line. Make a note above the chromatic as to which chord tone the chromatic is approaching and whether it is approaching from above or below. Then sing the line, first while playing the chords in your left hand or listening to the chords on the CD accompaniment that goes with the book. Don't try to analyze the chromatic usage beyond hearing the line and knowing which chord it is approaching and from where. This is mostly an exercise to introduce your inner ear to the sound of the different chromatic possibilities. I'll demonstrate this process on Send In the Clones, and I won't give up my day job, which is teaching jazz piano. Here's that famous tune recorded by Shirley Bassey, Oprah Winfrey, and Whoopi Goldberg. Send In the Clones. Just notice where the chromatics are and listen to the sound. You can hear the button hook there. Here's another one. Another one. Love those button hooks. So first you can play it just to get the sound of the chromatics, then play and sing along, then play the left hand by itself and sing the right hand. And this kind of exercise is going to get those chromatic tones right in your brain and show you how to use them the right way. This chromatic stuff is the trickiest part of the first 4 videos that we've covered in the Beginning Jazz Improv series. It's not too difficult, it just takes a little time to smoothly locate and incorporate the chromatics into the type of lines that we covered in parts 1 to 3 of this series. One general semi-rule to keep in mind is that in the beginning we will often use the chromatic tone on an upbeat and the chord tone on a downbeat. Once you can hear it this way, you can try reversing this basic approach and put the chromatic tone on the downbeat and the chord tone on the upbeat for a wackier sound. Thelonious Monk comes to mind. That's pretty wacky, man. First, try improvising over the 4 basic chord progressions that we studied in part 1 of this series slowly, without a metronome. Try adding some chromatics into your simple lines, using both your mind and your ear to find the right places to add the chromatic tones. Try adding some ascending, try adding some descending, and then try the button hook. This will work. I'm going to improvise some basic lines over a 2-5-1 progression in C major, and I'm going to put some chromatics in, hopefully at the right places. When you do this, you can do it first without a metronome, and then you could add a slow metronome when you feel more comfortable. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll just let that progression roll. Sometimes I'll go from below, sometimes from above. It's really just supposed to sound like a good melody. Three, 4. Three, 4. Let's try one more in this progression. All right, let's try some minor. 2-5-1 minor, D minor 7 flat 5, G7, C minor 6. Chromatics, please appear. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm thinking of the chord tones, and then I'm approaching them chromatically a little bit. Sometimes if you sing along as you're improvising, it will naturally help. Barry Manilow, look out. 3, 4, 1. Ha ha. Let's try a little more in C minor. One, 2, 3. All right. Before I leave this segment, I'd like to show you one more thing, and that is the difference between lines that have chromatics and don't have chromatics. First, I'll try improvising over a basic 2-5-1 progression in C major without using chromatics. Hi, I'm in Baskin & Robbins. I'll have a vanilla, please. Okay, now we're going to add some chromatics and you hear the difference. Remember, the chromatics are the chocolate chips in the cookies of improvisation. Two, three, four. Let's try one or two more, going for chromatics. Last one. Let's try a button hook. Okay. After you've studied all this garbage for a while, you can start incorporating regular chromatic tones into your tune improvisations. There's no rule about how often to use a chromatic in your lines, but you can think of a general guideline of about once every 6 to 8 beats or so. Try doing this slowly without a pulse for a while, sometimes adding a chromatic below the chord tone, sometimes above, and sometimes use a button hook for added splendor. Remember when improvising that the idea is always to create a nice new melody over the existing series of chords. To borrow a concept from part 2 of this series, think about using flow, phrase, breathe. This time we'll be adding the chromatics to our usual mix. Every improvised line flows for a while, stops at a point where your line feels like you've just completed a full musical sentence, and then you rest after that sentence. I'll demonstrate improvising over Here's That Rainy Day using an improvised blend of chord scale tones, basic arpeggios and extensions, and chromatics. The sound of adding all of our ingredients together constitutes the first great level of jazz playing. Please take every step separately if you're a beginner, and spend some time learning to use every ingredient, chord scales, arpeggios and extensions, and chromatics. It's a great idea to stay with primarily one tune for a month or two when you're beginning, adding the ingredients one by one. This will all come together for you as a beautiful musical puzzle very naturally if you follow each part of this video and take it at your own pace. On the changes to Here's That Rainy Day in F. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. I'd like to thank my technical team, Gita Black on video and Daryl Bornstein on audio for their help in putting this video together. If this kind of thing rings your chimes, I sincerely invite you to visit the Masterclass archive at www.davefrankjazz.com. There are presently 32 in-depth classes for your anytime perusal on all kinds of jazzy subjects. Feel free to write to me anytime if with questions, comments, complaints, or tomatoes at www.davefrankjazz.com. Blessings and keep you-know-what from New York City.